You've counted every calorie, tried every diet, spent hours in the gym, and still something's missing. You want more than just weight loss. You want your energy back. You want your confidence restored. You want a way of living that doesn't feel like punishment. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism, where we cut through the noise, ditch the fads, and give you a real plan to become the healthiest, strongest version of you. Hosted by our team of expert coaches with proven strategies, science-based tips, and real-life encouragement, not just to help you lose fat, but actually create that lifestyle that you love. You've tried everything. Now, let's try what actually works. This is your turning point. Let's go. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism. I am here with Calvin and Megan. So today's episode, we are going to chat about Megan's journey. And I definitely titled this Getting Her Groove Back because I think a lot of people are in that space that before they get married, have kids, their life looks very different. And moving through that time and getting to a place that you can get back to that person that you are and finding that person that you want to be is super important. Again, not just with competing that we'll talk about, but just the journey that she took. So I wanted to share this with everybody. I thought it was a great topic that a lot of people can probably relate to. So welcome, Megan, and thank you for sharing your story
Hey,
with
Megan.
us.
Absolutely. Excited to be here.
Yay. So I want to start by you kind of giving a little bit about your journey, where it started, just giving the person that you are, and where that all kind of came from, and then kind of fast forward to how you got in the position where you are now working with us.
Absolutely. So, taking it way back, I am a firstborn. I'm first child. So, I am that stereotypical type A, if you will. So, started actually playing sports when I was, well, organized sports when I was probably 5. And it just never changed, stopped since then, right? Grew up playing multiple sports through high school, was a 3-sport athlete, excelled, went on to play collegiate softball. And I was very active. Again, that stereotypical like kind of overachiever. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be the best in everything. So whether that was sports, school, whatever. So then, growing up, life changes and it shifts, right? So going through college, graduating college, then trying to start a career, ended up shifting careers, a couple years into my first career and decided to go back to school for something completely different, nursing. I have a business degree is my first degree, marketing. So shifted, but life shifted as well. So, when you're single, you're only worried about yourself and coming up being that athlete, being active. That was my life then. Then comes into my life my now husband, and life starts to change. We got engaged, we got married, we started to have kids. And now then when that started to happen, life was not all about what I was always used to it being, So it changed. Now it was about taking care of others, and my wants and needs kind of got put on the back burner, as many young mothers do. You are taking care of the kids, you are taking care of your husband, the family, what have you. So we had 3 boys pretty quickly there. So for about a period of 8 years, I guess that would be in total, was pregnant, and then I breastfed all of them. So pregnant, breastfed, pregnant again, breastfed, pregnant again, breastfed. So finally I got to the point where I felt lost. I did not feel like I was myself, and my husband, Jairus, he could see that. He could see the kind of the struggle that I wasn't feeding myself. I wasn't taking care of myself. Like, who am I now? And I felt that too. It's like, I don't feel like the person I was before, and how do I get back to that person? So actually the idea of competing came up, and knowing my background, knowing the, athlete that I used to be and how I love to be pushed and I am very competitive. It kind of felt like the right fit, I won't lie. The more of the performance side, the stage side, that's what scared me.
Yep.
Not the, like, the working out part, the
The
eating part, like,
consistency.
that
Yep.
part was like, I can do that. Like,
Yep.
I can't walk in those heels. That's what
Correct. There's the biggest problem.
can I do
I
it
don't
barefoot?
envy you
No.
guys for that.
Yes. Yep.
Um, so I was very intrigued by that, and it seemed like that was gonna be the right push for me. And plus, I wanted to get back to feeling like myself, and I felt like this was really going to get me back to that. You know, it wasn't for a vanity reason. It wasn't, because I'm trying to prove something to somebody else, like whatever. This was for me. Um, and that's where you guys were recommended to me. And the rest has been kind of history. I've fallen in love with it. Um, it's now just part of my life. And, coming from a nurse now, I've been a nurse for what, 13, over 13 years now, 13 and a half ish. And I see the sick and some of the sick at the worst. I'm an oncology nurse, so they're going through it.
Yep.
The worst of the worst. They're down bad. And what this has kind of brought into my life is I want to help people before they get to those chronic illnesses, or to minimize those chronic illnesses, reverse those chronic illnesses. I want to get our population, people I can help, to health, and not to just dealing with their health when they're at their worst. And
Yep.
that's really become my passion.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just so much was just said. There's so many things I want to touch on with that. I mean, one, just starting with the fact that you're an only child, because only childs get some slack sometimes because they can be considered the type of people that are
Not only,
self-absorbed,
she's
you
the
know.
Just
older.
the
Oh, the
first.
older.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed. I thought owner. No, so that makes sense then, because that's what I was gonna say. I don't know how I missed that one, because I was gonna say you have all the traits of like an older sister, like the nurturing one, all of them. I'm like, that's why I was gonna say about that. Just somehow missed that. My earphones must be jammed up,
Or maybe I said it
but
wrong,
that
but no,
but
firstborn.
it does. Like, you're the caretaker. Since we've known you, since you came on, it's just that's the thing that really stood out, is that you're always taking care of others, between being a nurse, between family, extended
Clients.
family, that you're taking them into the house and taking care of them in the midst of it all. So but your work ethic was just insane. Like, it was literally like I've never seen anything like it. When it was time to get things done, you were doing it. You were
No
doing it,
matter
and
what.
never budged you. It never phased you. Some of the things that I was like, how is she still going at this point? And you just keep going through it. You just keep bouncing back. And so that's something I hope some people get to take away from this, because they see that, they don't even really know everything that's been going on in your life. And it's been a lot. This last couple of years, I'm just like, boy, she needs a break. But I think this is the one thing, like you said, it kind of brings back some of the things that you loved about yourself that you don't want to lose. And I feel like that's a big part of what you're doing now, is just trying to hang on to who you are, so you still can love yourself, because still, and not lose yourself. I think that that's one of the big benefits to what you're doing right now, and taking, because competition can be a absorbed sport. It can be what's considered a selfish sport in a sense, depending on how you view it, because you have to live a certain lifestyle, and that doesn't it conflicts with a lot of people's lifestyles, because it's not the norm. But I think you need that. I think you have to have that, that kind of structure, because you're a competitor, and you're hard driven, and somehow you find a way to make it work, which is just,
I think
which
it's also, a lot of times when you do have so many things going on, you want to control what you do have control over. And I always tell people, the gym is the gym. You know, People view it as, well, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't like going to the gym. Like, the gym is so much more than what people realize, because it really is a place that when everything feels like it's crumbling down, it is the one place that you can feel strong. It is the one thing that is a constant reminder that I can go there, and that is the place that when I feel like everything is coming down, it will physically show me that I am strong. And I think it's that connection. And the same thing with the food, same thing with your sleep. It's let's control what we can control. And when you do care for yourself, it allows you to do more for others, because you feel like, okay, I can do this. So, with what I have left over, let me go and take care of the other things that I can and do what I can. But definitely the work ethic, what you mentioned, lots of people can get in great shape and get super lean. The difference between just starting something to lose weight and starting something, to follow it through, a competitor is a different mindset. It is no matter what happens, this is where I'm going. No matter what happens, this is what it is. It is 100% on point. If you are just looking to get lean, you can have some days off here and there, you can have some times off, but a competitor, that is the difference. It's a different mindset, it's a different work ethic, and it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. Some people, like I started off, I wasn't a competitor, but when it shifts and you kind of just start increasing that goal for yourself, that's where you start to realize, well, if I did this, then I could do the next step. So I do tell people that when starting out, it takes a certain mindset. And I don't want people to think that they could just jump in and do it because it is something that you have to kind of show and see that you can do. But when you do, and over time that you build that consistency and you see for yourself of what you're capable of, that's that feeling that you start, uh, that competitor in me, like, there it is. Now I feel her again. Now I know I'm on the right track. And I love that you kind of went through that because I agree. It was just, this is who you've always been since you were young. So getting back to that space, I feel definitely allows you to be able to handle all of the storms that have been in your life for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it definitely makes you better in all those areas as a caretaker because you have to find your own strength. I think that's one of the biggest things I think that I see happen with women, as they go into motherhood, is that they lose themselves and then they become a giver, but a constant giver between the husband, the in-laws, the kids, their job, and they lose themselves. And then before they know it, they're going into their 40s and they don't even know who they are anymore. They don't know where their life is, that they're not happy, but they feel that it's selfish to do something for themselves, to kind of regain. I mean, what it comes down to, I think a lot of what is important to bring back happiness is especially as we get older, is actually reconnecting to our younger self, our kid self, because that's the truest form of what we really enjoyed doing before we had all the things, before we got corrupted and our minds twisted and tainted from all the stuff that goes on in the world, was just the basic, like, these are the things I enjoy doing. This is what makes me happy.
Yep.
It can be simple, it can be complicated, but like I feel like that's the best thing you can do is just try to reinvent what you were when you were younger. And it does in turn start to bring life back to you, and having that place that you have control of, like in the gym, is just, it's like no other, because it is the one place that's a constant reminder every day that you're going to overcome it, that you have the strength to be able to do it. And I think that's where we get almost like addicted to it, because if we don't have that, that day goes by and we didn't have that stability of saying, this was my area, this is my zone right here. And then we step out into the world of chaos, and I think that time, that hour out of the day or hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, is is that time to kind of reset and remember who you are.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's great too, just coming from that caregiver place, that's what I do almost 24/7 because between my job, nursing and being even a coach, you're taking care of others, you're providing feedback, I'm at home, I'm taking care of the family. So it's almost like 24/7. And I think that time that I get to spend like in the gym is taking care of myself. So then I can better take care of all these other people in my life. My kids are seeing a good example.
Yes.
They're seeing all the struggles and what I'm doing to better myself. And hopefully they're taking
Yeah.
positive things away from this and showing them that they can do anything. Like if they set their mind to it, they have goals, it's things that they can strive for. It might not be a gym per se, it might not be building muscle, but like whatever that looks like, it could be excelling academically, like whatever it is. But if you have goals, there are steps to get to those goals and just keeping that, in mind.
Yeah. And something else about you that is unique is that a lot of people, I think, would struggle with is because you work 12-hour shifts, night shifts. So, what would you suggest? Because there are people that say, well, I can't do it because I'm working these long shifts or my days, I'm too busy, I have this going on, because you obviously have working 12-hour shifts, kids activities, coaching, all of the things. What are some things that you do that help you prepare for your meals, your time for your workouts and things like that? What are things that you would help or I guess suggest to other people that are struggling with time and I'm too busy?
I think planning, I mean, keeping it simple, planning and prepping is key. I mean, we use our phones, the calendar on the phones. Jairus and I, we have a family account. So then everything goes on the calendar. And sometimes I have to get on him, like, if it's not on the calendar, like
It's not happening.
yeah. Because plan,
How do you get him to actually use that calendar?
I
I
mean,
knew that was coming.
it's been a
I knew that was
struggle.
coming.
He's definitely gotten better.
In
But
Jairus's defense, he's not the only guy that has an issue with that.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Okay.
yeah. But planning, because from my nursing schedule, I right now it's been kind of set because I do work like a weekend option and then a few shifts here and there additionally. But that helps to plan a little bit. But even if you don't, I mean, putting stuff on the calendar, the kids' activities are on the calendar, so I know, okay, I have to work tonight and I have this going on to, the following day at PM. So here's my window. This is the time I have and where can I fit what I need to get in there. If it's not a rest day, which is important by the way, but if it's not a rest day, you've got to make it work. So you got to figure it out and get it in there. It might be that you're working out late at night because that's the only option, or later than you'd like to. But coming from a competitor standpoint, you have to make it work. So, or it might look like on a day that I work that night, maybe I'm getting up earlier that day to make sure that I get all my things in that morning before I go to work. And when it comes to nutrition, prepping is key. And I think figuring out what works best for each individual with shift work, sometimes it takes some trial and error to figure out what does work best for that person. I mean, I know what works best for me, and I can give ideas but it is a trial and error, just like anything, you may not find the perfect thing the first time, but it doesn't mean that you give up on it. It means that you might have to make some adjustments. You might have to pivot a little bit, try something different. And then eventually, though, you'll find what works best. But if I didn't prep and plan, it would be a nightmare. We always
Yeah.
say about like when we're counting macros, it's like playing Tetris, trying to fit all the pieces in. So it's that same kind of mindset with planning the day. You have all the pieces that you need to get done in that day, but how do you fit them in? And, I'd say looking at the day before. I try to look days even ahead. So I know in 2 days I got this coming up. I know this is what's going to have to happen. Not taking it day by day like that morning, because
Right.
that would be causing just a lot of unnecessary stress. And that's for anybody. We don't want to stress you out. We want to decrease the stress. And by planning and doing some prepping, that in return is going to decrease some stress and allow you to just function a little bit easier than if you were planning everything on the fly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
the same goes for like work. Like you're at your job, you don't walk into your job and just like, let's see what happens today.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have some idea, some plan, because when you don't, the problem is that you're going and going and going, and then you're like, that's where you're constantly thinking about macros and constantly thinking about food and how am I gonna get this in? And before you know it, it's the end of the day. And I have a client ask me, I have 20 grams of oil, I mean 20 grams of fat. What am I gonna do? I'm like, drink some oil. Like I don't like you got to plan your day. And, you mentioned prepping. And like I said, there are different ways to do it. And this is another thing we talk with our clients about because typically at our house, because we are working from home, I will make a bunch of sweet potatoes, a bunch of rice. We make a bunch of chicken, a bunch of fish. So two carbs, 2 proteins, usually some veggies or somewhere, usually frozen, and we have oils or nut butters or nuts, avocados, and we kinda like mixy matchy. So we have stuff for the week, and then on usually Thursdays, I'll do a little bit more. So I have some people, that's really hard for them to do, or they don't wanna eat the same thing. So I tell them, "Okay, like, prep some stuff the day before and then make extra so that you have it for lunch." So if you're cooking dinner every night, to do it that way and think of some type of breakfast. So with shifts, with what you do, could you share what it is that you do for a 12-hour shift and what that looks like? And I don't even know how you do that, that you'll be 12 hours, and how do you figure like what your first meal is when you're working at night? So just to kind of share maybe something like that of what it looks like.
Yeah, we kinda do the same thing in our household. That's what works best for us, is kinda to, take a day and we prep, multiple proteins, multiple carbs, we have the fats, and we kinda work the same way. And that makes it easier for me when I'm prepping those meals to take with me to work because, I mean, everything's already made, I just gotta put it in my containers and take it with me. So what works for me, and this is what I'm saying, it may not work best for one person, but these are ideas and it may take some trial and error. But what works best for me is I kind of use the military clock. And so this works for me even when I come off shift too. So at, midnight, again, because I'm working night shift, midnight is the start of my day. So for me, usually if I'm working that night, I'll have my last meal. I mean, every shift is different. So, but normally maybe around 10ish that night, right? Somewhere in there, I'll have my last meal. And then that's kind of like my meal 4 or 5, depending on the day and depending on what my macros look like. And then at midnight is my new day. So I typically will eat like meal 1, usually about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Then I'll have my breakfast then when I get home. So then if I'm having, say, 4 meals a day, usually I'll go to sleep, when I get home. And then when I wake up, and depending if I have to go back to work again, that might look like more sleep or less sleep. But when I wake up, that would be my meal 3 because I've had my meal 1 at like 2 or 3 a.m., breakfast when I get home. So that's meal 2, meal 3 when I wake up. And then if I'm going back to work, there comes that meal 4 about 9, 10 o'clock, and there's my 4 meals,
Okay.
right? If I'm eating 5 meals, then I just have another one in there, and I might eat, another little snack or something in between there. But that's what I have found works best for me, is just going off
Right.
of really that military time. So that way, if I'm going back to work, it's still that same
Same
cycle,
8-hour.
or if
Right.
I'm not going back to work, it's still the same. So that's what works best for me. And I do the same
And
thing with my water too. So just keeping track of how much water I've drank. I again just keep on the military, keep everything the same.
that's such a great method, and that's pretty cool how you laid that out like that because it's it's kinda goes back to what you're saying is, like, when you're not planned out, that it's way more stressful. So, to some people, they're hearing that and they're like, "Oh, who has time to do that and make those meals and have those ready?" But if at the same time, people have to fix their food regardless, they have to take breaks away, then they gotta figure out what they gotta eat. That actually takes a lot more time. If you just nail those meals and get them done ahead of time, one, you don't have to worry about it. It's laid out for you for the day. It's almost impossible to screw up, and then, but there's no stress at that point. It's done and it feels good. Like you're just like, okay, I established this. I'm on point with this. And you feel good. You have more of a positive, outlook going into the day when you know you're prepared for it. So just the prep alone is such a huge strike towards the stress and knocking it down, and helping you stay on plan. So but it's a learned skill, that people have to kind of get, whether a competitor or not, but you have to kind of make it work with your day, like you have your system and now you stick to that system. And that's why it works so well for you and you never skip a beat. Like your deviations, I never see deviations with you. It just never happens. And if it is, it's like nothing, and that's because you're structured, and you have that. And with all the chaos in your life, if you didn't have that, it would probably cause a lot of stress. Like if you just kind of winged it per mill, I think you'd probably lose your mind.
Yeah.
I think you would lose your mind. That would be it, So it's good for people to hear that, to kind of understand that that's actually a de-stress to actually have the stuff ahead of time and made.
Mhm.
than causing the stress.
And a plan, because even when you have a plan, if something goes off, you're still going to be closer than if you had no plan at all.
Yeah.
And definitely something that you had mentioned is that in your job, you are taking care of people that are already sick. And I always talk to people because the people that are like usually that structured and are either my type A's that just need it because that makes them feel better, or my ones that have seen things on labs, that there are markers. And then all of a sudden, they find the time. All of a sudden, it can be a priority. So, I don't think people realize how much chronic stress and not taking care of yourself can result in 10, 20 years down the road in some type of chronic illness. I know women that are getting older, nothing is changing, but now all of a sudden their cholesterol is up. Now all of a sudden they are starting to see a high A1C. Like part of our physiology with hormones downregulating, you are going to see these changes. So what you need to do is not just really take the time to plan the food and making sure that you're fueling your body, not decreasing calories and doing it to lose body fat. Like thinking about health and longevity, that now my fuel is my food. So I need to really pay close attention that I'm putting really good things into my body so I can have a healthy life. Understanding that the gym not just helps me to feel strong, but also improves my bone density, improves my joints, improves my muscle mass. So I don't wind up having that hip fracture that all of a sudden the person went way downhill when they got sick when they were older because they didn't do the weight training and what was needed to be able to keep them from catching themselves in the ball and doing the things. And then the third aspect, which I think is most important, is managing stress, because where we had every once in a while you get that cortisol response from a fight or flight because something happens in your life. A lot more things happen as we get older, obviously, because we have a lot more responsibilities, a lot more things in our life that we are caring for. So being able to really prioritize that, prioritize your sleep, and making sure that you are finding those times of the things that bring you joy and make you happy, because just doing that, I can tell people to meditate all day long. Like, I can't meditate. I am sure you are like me, that you're going to have 112 tabs open and
Exactly.
thinking about all the things that you need to get done. So the way that we can meditate is by doing something we enjoy. Because if you do something that you enjoy, like going out with your friends and having a good time, going on a date with your husband, being able to, like, I use my word finds or my coloring book, like it's something that you're focusing on. So you're not thinking about all the tabs that are open. Those moments I think are super important too. And understanding that all of these things are equally important when you are caring for yourself and trying to get your future set up and your future self to be in a good place, and not wishing, oh crap, I wish like 20 years ago, just the same thing when we started having kids and doing it. And I wish I didn't like let myself go. I wish I started, training back then. I wish I started realizing how much it would have helped me to get through that time if I had cared for myself the way that I do now, because it's a lot easier now for me to handle the things now that I've gotten this system in place. So, just like you did for work, like I think people, it may take some work at first, like you said, of trial and error and understanding, like, and sometimes our schedule changes. Like if I know we're super busy and we're back to back calls and we're about to like change our whole client check-in schedule, like I might need to like prep up the meals like ready to go so they're done and we could just grab it and eat it. Like there's different phases. If we travel, I might get one of those, companies, I'll Instacart or get one of those meal prep companies to deliver to our hotel. There's all different ways. So you could have one way, but definitely if you're always thinking in your mind about what is coming up next and how can I plan for it to feel better, like that's what's going to make you feel more in control in the moment. So I love all the tips that you give. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think I think a lot of people know that nursing is already a stressful job. I think that's probably been more apparent lately than ever really. And so, but I can say from a coaching standpoint, nurses are always the hardest. And it's not because they're not doing the things, it's because of the change in sleep patterns, the long hours, the unpredictability of the job, because it's kind of like when you think like waiters in restaurant, like I did that my earlier years. And I'm never gonna go back to that because you're dealing with everybody at their worst time when they're hungry, you know?
Yeah.
So you got some people are pleasant, some people that aren't, you know? And when you think about the hospital, I don't know too many patients that are in there that are, boy, like, this is a life, you know? Like, they're
Right.
not happy, you know? And so this is what you're having to deal with on a daily basis.
Yes.
And so it just is already a stressful environment on top of the change in patterns as well. So I'm curious, like, do you have any kind of like a go-to that you use when you feel stress coming, something that kind of just brings you down, like a little trick that you use, or just is there a way that you have to kind of calm yourself down when these things happen?
I think a couple of the big ones for me is having that close friend at work too. So, if we are going through a stressful time at work, someone who you really do feel closer with, that you can sit down and be like, you know what, I can't believe that just happened. Like, I'm emotional. Like, we carry it as nurses. I mean, I don't want to say just as much as family, but like we carry it so much, when something goes negatively with a patient or, God forbid we have a code and you lose a person. And in my line of work, we actually take care of a lot of our end of life patients as well. So, we're seeing them at the very end when there's a lot of emotions, whether it's coming from the patient, the families, the friends that are coming in to visit. So it is very emotional. So having someone who you can confide in and really just talk through the emotions and feeling the emotions are okay. And I think being able to talk about them and go through them, digest them, that's healthy and not always keeping them inside and just kind of letting it bottle up, fester. And then, because eventually you're going to hit your breaking point, and that might not look good.
Yeah.
I know for me, I also have my husband's, if I'm feeling a certain way, he's someone, again, I feel comfortable. We can talk through things. Sometimes if we're talking in a health aspect, he may not understand everything, and that's okay. He tries as much as he can. But that's, I think, where it's important to have someone who can understand the life that is and can relate. That's a big one. Um,
Yeah. That's really, really good advice. Really good advice. I think for anybody in any profession or anybody going through anything is to have that person that you're friends with. And I think a lot of people do, but if you don't have it, or if it's a person that holds things in and doesn't talk about it and tries to bottle it up, that's that thing that I think would eventually break people. But to have that person to talk to, and if you don't, a therapist, you know,
yeah.
just for that very reason, because I have that a lot with the clients when I see things can get tense, they're having struggles, and I'll ask them, do you want a call? I'm like, not for anything, just a vent, you know, just tell me how you feel, and because I don't know if they have that person to do. So it's nice to get that supported, and the fact that that's what you're doing, because I think that's just human nature. But I think a lot of people don't realize that, and they do hold it in, and they because they feel like it's a burden or they're complaining to somebody, but maybe somebody else actually needs to hear it. Maybe they're going through something too, and they need to know that they're not the only one going through that. So it's two ways. That's really, really good advice. I didn't even think about that in terms of like stress relief, but that makes sense. Yeah. Great one.
I think it's the same thing when you are trying on a health journey. We have a lot of clients that are getting started and like my significant other is still eating like garbage in front of me or my, friends, I go out with them and they're doing things, so it's super helpful. I tell them find somebody that like wants to do this with you because it does make it easier when you have somebody, especially when you're starting a new habit or starting a new, nutrition or whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's different. It's different than you've been doing. So if you have someone that's doing it along with you, it definitely makes it a lot easier and someone that you can confide in for sure. So I love that. Awesome. So we can go ahead and start wrapping this up unless you have something else that you would like to share or another point that you would want to share with somebody that's getting started or somebody that does shift work, anything along these lines, or someone who's a mom struggling and feels like she has the guilt of doing things for herself.
I think it's just don't give up. Like if you really want to, have a goal of improving yourself, improving your health, your wellness, getting to whatever goal it is that you have, just don't give up. Just know that there are seasons and it's just learning, okay, I'm in this season of life. Maybe I do need to make some pivots I need to maybe change how things work right now, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be your forever, because there's definitely different seasons in life and just being adaptable.
That was such a perfect thing for you to say because what I don't know that people realize is you're actually in prep right now to compete, and we're almost to that date. And I can say there's been probably a few times in this prep that Megan's gone through some things that was like, okay, I got to pull the plug. I have to get her out of this. It's not a good time to prep. And I've asked her to be like, it's okay, if we want to pull, and do this because the stress does become apparent in the body. The body, when it is stressed, starts to fight. It doesn't want to let weight go. So it'll hold it in one way or the other, whether it's water retention or whatever. And I don't know. Megan just finds a way. She's like, no, we're gonna finish. We're gonna see it through. We're gonna go. And then the next thing comes. I'm like, oh boy, okay, here we go. Megan, it's me again.
Yeah,
It's a test.
this
How you
prep has
doing?
not been easy. This has not been easy. It's been
Yeah.
long and many
Yeah.
different things thrown into it.
And
Yeah.
we've been getting so creative with things because it's been one of those preps where we just have had resistance like I haven't even encountered before. But at the end of the day, her weight's dropping right now. She's doing it and she's finding ways to get through it. And it's just but that's that, never quit mentality, and it is that keeping positive and just doing what you can do. And the thing that I like that what she said is, I have ultimately the call. If I tell her we're pulling out, we're pulling out. But it's one of those things that you see it in the movies, with the boxers. And they're like, the coach wants to throw in the towel, and they're like, no, don't do it, but he knows if it gets down to that point, you got to throw the towel. And I'm like, I'm holding the towel, I'm holding it, and we're going
Almost
and we're going.
there.
I'm like, but we're so close. And then all of a sudden, the next day, our weight drops. I'm like, I'm putting the towel down. I'm setting it over here safely. Then the next thing comes. I'm like, all right, I'm picking the towel back up.
It's
So,
exactly how
and
it's been.
that is our prep. Yeah. And so, but at the end of the day, it's something that we're getting through it. And when she accomplishes it that day and gets on stage,
The
she
Rocky
already
theme is going
looks,
to start in the background.
she already looks now,
Good dress to
the
speak.
way that I think pretty much any woman would be envious to see how she looks right now. But we're going and we're shooting for the best look ever. And, and she's going to achieve it. That's the thing. That's what's so crazy about this is that she's going to do it. She broke through all these odds and she fought through and she didn't quit. Even when I wanted her to, and I'm telling Brooke, I'm like, I got to tell her she got to stop. So,
You can
but we're
try.
not, like,
She may show up that day anyway in her heels and a bikini.
Right.
and I'm like,
Surprise.
but it's
She's like
really
running the race
inspiring though.
without the number on her thing. She's just
Yeah,
like
yeah, she might be a
walking
little
across the
disgruntled that day.
stage.
I'm like, we're going to fly up and be there because you're probably going to forget something that day. But she's going to make it. But that's the whole thing is it's not, and that's what I love about your view on competition and where we feel competition should be is it's not about the first place or second place. I mean, hopefully we get first place, but the win is conquering the battle to get there, and overcoming and finding that inner strength to do it, to keep proving that you can, which kind of goes back to the whole training aspect. Those day after day after day after day of training, sometimes people feel like they're in a plateau, but they're not because it's mentally preparing you for something much tougher in life. And this represents that. You're here and each time you're going and you're not quitting and you're seeing it through. And just those little movements each day is your stepping stones to get here. And so we're in this together. And so that's going to be a day we're going to celebrate no matter what,
Yeah.
it's going down. And I can tell you guys 100% without a doubt, she will come back stronger next year,
Yep.
That's the
Yep.
and it's
plan.
just, yeah,
We're going to
100%.
have a
So
fun reverse though.
When
yeah,
my
bring the
body doesn't
food,
want to fight me every day.
right?
It's a thing. It's a thing for sure. Well, thank you so much, Megan. And if you all enjoyed this episode, we would appreciate if you would leave us a review. And if you have any other topics you would like us to share, please put them in the comments. And for now, thank you so much for
And
the masters.
do you care if we put your Instagram information on here
By all
so people
means,
can follow
yeah.
you
I'd love
more?
Yeah. So
to
we'll,
connect with anyone who has questions or
Yeah.
anything at all.
All right.
yeah.
Perfect.
So she's a great resource for anybody that does shift work that is trying to change their lifestyle. She is got some great tips. So we're hoping you got some from today, but thank you all for joining us and we will see you in the next episode.
And an
Have a
amazing
good one.
coach
Yes. Ciao.
above all. All right.
Thanks for tuning in to Master Your Metabolism. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little guidance in their health journey. Ready to take the next step? Head over to www.mastersfitnesscoaching.com and you can book a free call right from the site so we can chat about your goals and how we can help support you. Don't forget to join our Facebook group where we're sharing coaching tips, support, and tricks to help keep you on track and continue making progress. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to walk with you every step of the way. Until next time, stay consistent, stay kind to yourself, and keep mastering your metabolism. Let's do this together.